We're all here because we love you. Celeste said it softly, her hands wrapped tightly around a glass of water she hadn't touched. In my own penthouse, under the warm hush of dimmed lights, sat four people I had never invited into my private life. A psychiatrist, a divorce attorney, my mother-in-law Diana, and Miles Ashford, a member of my own board of directors. The seating was too perfect, the concern too rehearsed. That was the first clear sign this wasn't love. This was strategy. My name is Graham Whitmore. I'm 44 years old, founder and CEO of Whitmore Infrastructure Group. From the outside, my life looked untouchable. A Park Avenue penthouse overlooking the city, a company worth hundreds of millions. The kind of success that makes rooms go quiet when I walk in. From the inside, my wife had been quietly building a version of me that could be removed. Cleanly, politely, without a single headline. It all started with fear, the quiet, creeping kind that grows slowly in the spaces between words, the kind you don't notice until it has already taken root deep inside you. Celeste was terrified that as the company grew larger and more powerful, I would eventually outgrow her. She feared one day waking up and realizing she had become irrelevant. Just another elegant wife standing beside success while the world moved on without her. Her mother, Diana, feared the same thing for her daughter, that she would always be known as the CEO's wife, instead of a woman with real power in her own right. And Miles? He saw a clear, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rise if I could be gently pushed aside. They didn't hate me. They simply wanted control of a future they believed I no longer deserved to lead. For weeks, Celeste had become unusually kind, too attentive, too gentle. She asked if I was sleeping enough, if I was drinking more than usual to handle the stress, if the pressure of running a company this size was finally becoming too much for one person. At first, it felt like genuine care. Later, I realized it was something colder. Inventory. She was quietly collecting every small vulnerability so she could turn them into weapons when the moment was right. Her mother joined the performance a week later. At family dinners, Diana would say things like, "Men under this kind of pressure can change so gradually they don't even notice," in that soft, concerned tone wealthy mothers use when they want to plant doubt without ever taking responsibility. None of it sounded dramatic. It was just careful. A little too careful. Then came the canceled lunches and the sudden wellness consultations Celeste insisted I attend. I went anyway. The doctor didn't ask about symptoms, he asked about patterns. My resistance to support, my trust issues, my use of alcohol to manage mood. I left that office with a heavy feeling I couldn't quite name, but I still couldn't bring myself to believe my own wife was building a case against me. On a quiet Sunday night, I came home to find my own living room rearranged like a stage. My chair had been pulled to the center. There was no alcohol in sight. Everyone was already seated in their assigned positions. Celeste began the performance with perfect, polished concern. "We're worried about you, Graham. The late nights, the drinking, the mood changes. Even the board is concerned that you might be losing control of the company." They slid the folder across the table. Temporary Executive Wellness Safeguard. Voluntary admission to a private recovery program. Temporary transfer of executive authority. A full protective review of all personal and corporate accounts. It wasn't an intervention. It was a coup disguised as love. I let the silence stretch until the air in the room felt thick and heavy. Then I placed my own folder on the table. 3 documents. The first was my independent psychiatric evaluation. Completely clean, no impairment, no instability. The second was proof of their coordinated plan. Emails between Celeste, Diana, and Miles, scheduled calls, and pre-written scripts of concern prepared weeks in advance. The third was the transcript of Diana telling Miles, "If Graham won't step down voluntarily, we need to help him realize he needs to." The room went deathly still. Celeste's carefully constructed mask of concern cracked. Diana dropped the tragic expression and looked, for one raw second, exactly what she was: exposed. Miles suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. I looked directly at my wife and said quietly, "You didn't call this an intervention because I was breaking down. You called it that because removal sounds too ugly when you say it in a living room." No shouting, no rage, just the clean, devastating sound of their elegant plan collapsing in real time. The fallout was swift and merciless. Miles resigned from the board within days. The psychiatrist distanced himself with a vague public statement. The emergency transfer request was quietly withdrawn. I kept the company. I kept my name. I kept my authority. But the marriage had already died long before that night. What stayed with me wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the softness of their plan, how they had used the gentlest words, love, concern, help, to try and erase me from my own life. I kept asking myself the same painful question. How could I have been so blind? How could I have turned the person who was fighting hardest for me into the enemy I feared most? Fear doesn't just make you blind. It makes you cruel to the very person who was still trying to protect you. Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't open hatred. It's when concern becomes polished enough to take your place in your own story. Have you ever been cared for by someone who was actually trying to remove you from your own life? See you in the next one.